Alright. What's up, everybody, and welcome back. We got ourselves a very interesting series for you because we've got the man of the hour who's been starting to kick up some nice performances on the new patch. And of course, he's everyone's favorite YouTuber, pro gamer, and caster. It's HARSTEM in the top right, representing Shopify Rebellion. And he's up against REYNOR, representing Basilisk in the bottom left. REYNOR's been on a bit of a break from StarCraft after dominating Home Story Cup earlier in the year into winning Gamers 8, a tournament with a $400,000 prize pool. And he took some time off. He did show up to Pigfest, much to my enjoyment, but played Protoss. And he played Protoss with very little practice and still had a reasonably close series with Solar, despite that. So, as always, REYNOR's off-race with Protoss is exceptionally good. But he's back now in the Zerg seat. He hasn't been there for long, but he's also been very vocally complaining about this patch. Before the patch came out, was asking a lot of pros their thoughts. And I said, hey, REYNOR, how is, what do you think about the new patch? What's going on? And he said, I haven't touched any of it. I don't know. But honestly, if they put the changes through as they are, I'm probably going to play Protoss and just swap to Protoss or Terran because, yeah, screw playing Zerg. And I was like, whoa! And I was like, have you actually looked at them or tested them? He's like, no, but I don't know. I glanced at them. Sounded bad. And that time, it does seem like a very REYNOR approach, right? To just kind of go, you know what? I'm just gonna, looks good, looks bad, but he's a play-by-feel player. He's not necessarily a massive planner in his games. He does obviously understand the game on a deep level, but Serral seems to be at the cutting edge of preparation for this patch. REYNOR, not so much. HARSTEM, also a player who played hundreds of games on this patch through the planning phase, did a lot of thinking about it, and he is definitely ahead of the meta right now. I really feel like HARSTEM also has a lot more experience on the new map pool than a lot of the other players out there. So I'm very curious to see how he approaches this as he goes for 3-gate. Is this going to be Glaives? Yeah, he's forgotten to start Glaives if that's the case. And a 4th gate. 4-gate Glaives with no Robo. Now the Glaive starts up. Okay, this is an interesting build. He's going to get rid of that Overlord. So REYNOR, I mean, I think he saw that Warp Gate had started. I'm not sure if he delayed Warp Gate or not. I probably should have paid attention to that. HARSTEM may have cancelled his Warp Gate, but actually looking at the timing on it, no, it looks like a normal Warp Gate timing. Okay, so he didn't fake Stargate. REYNOR should know that this is a Twilight build or a Robo build, and he should be going for a Roach Warren and putting back on gas very shortly. Quite late to put back on that first gas. And let's see, REYNOR's going 5 Queens, so I wonder if he's just going to play the heavy Queen response. Now, notice that's a very quick third base for HARSTEM, but unfortunate. It's a bit too early, I think. That's going to be going down. Is it, though? It's only 6 Zerglings. They don't have the craziest damage output. Actually manages to keep it up. Needs to get a pylon, though, does HARSTEM. He is almost supply blocked right now. And that's going to be an issue. Pylon does go up in the third base, but already having 6 Adepts. He could go across the map with those, start doing some pressure. Glaives, almost finished. He's chrono boosting it. And yes, there's no Robo, but this is an old school build. And I've been talking about how this is so rarely used right now. It does have some weaknesses to certain all-ins and things, but what's so great is you get the best of both worlds. A sharp pressure with the Adepts, and you get a quick third base, so you got a good economy behind it. People have often said that a really stiff Roach speed counterattack can be hard to deal with, but REYNOR's Roach Horn is at 420? That's such a late Roach Horn. Normally, if you drop it at 4 minutes and 5 or 4 minutes 10, that's late, but he's at 420, so he's got to defend with Mass Queen Zergling, which is not ideal. Adepts smack Zerglings pretty hard. He's going to have to get us around on those Adepts. Okay, third base. He's quickly running the drones. Good move there by REYNOR. But REYNOR does lose a Queen. A second Queen going down. He tries to go for the surround in the mineral line, but he's all stuck behind each other on the right side. 1 Adept gets easily surrounded. 2 Adepts do go down. A few more will fall. But HARSTEM's getting some fantastic damage. You can already see it in the units lost tab. 5 Adepts for 21 Zerglings, 2 drones, and 2 Queens. And he's getting even more mining time here. HARSTEM getting massive damage done. And there's more Adepts coming in from the front. You can see it in the top right of your screen right now. There are Adepts in that third mineral line in the very top right and down here in the bottom as well. They're going to shade into the natural. The Roaches clean that up, but that is a massive amount of damage. 10 drones, 31 Zerglings, 2 Queens. Behind it, he's got a third base probing up, a Sentry, a Shield Battery, and some Stalkers. This is a really cool build by HARSTEM. It's an old school build, and he goes double Robo afterwards. This is giving me 2016 vibes. The funny thing is, we used to do this every game in 2016, except the Robos would be even quicker. You'd build both Robos at your third base, which seems insanely risky now, but you could get away with it because we had the Mothership core back then, and it could just overcharge pylons to turn them into photon cannons temporarily. And that was a special time in StarCraft. I love describing this and realizing that there are so many new players who came in the last 4 or 5 years of StarCraft who never experienced the Mothership core. every Terran and Protoss players, Terran and Zerg players' worst nightmare. We all hated it. We complained incessantly about it. And every Protoss player's safety blanket. It definitely made us feel good as Protoss players back then. That was when I first learnt Protoss as well. And I was also a pretty nice map pool at the time. A depth shading up there. Good harassment here for HARSTEM. REYNOR is definitely behind in this game. Is he dead though? No. He's got an Evo Chamber, he's got a Roach Warren. He does need to get a 4th base started. And it feels like he's going to have to make a sort of mass Roach Ravager comeback. And I always feel like the double Colossus is such a nice way to start because they give you such consistent long-range damage output. You've got 2 Colossus on the way. He's going to get Forge for some attacks coming in. And the Baneling transition for in, and this is something I really wanted to see players go away from. So far on this patch, all the Zergs are still playing Banelings, like every game, Ravager Bane or sometimes Hydra Bane. I don't know, it's okay, but obviously the Banelings don't one-shot workers with +2 melee anymore. They need +3 to do that. And not only that, it's the fact that they have 5 less hit points, so they do die a little quicker to Colossus Splash and all this sort of stuff, and it is a style that falls off. Now, REYNOR is kind of famous for being a lair tech boy in this matchup, where he would always try to win with just mass Ravagerling Bane, and he would often fall way behind against guys like Showtime, sometimes even a little behind against guys like HARSTEM, and he'd still win by just like having amazing multitasking and harassment. And I think that was a very cool thing to see that he was able to make that happen. There's something I've heard. I was talking to Rex and kind of getting some info from the Chinese scene and the Korean scene, and there's a few people over there saying, you know, these maps are much harder to find a way in with those Ravagerling Bane, these lair tech armies. The bases are a little bit more compact. I don't know if this map's a great example of that, but there definitely are a fair few choke points on it. Colossus stumbles past some Zerglings coming in and is like, whoa, get out of here, guys. Okay, Roaches +1 melee, 76 workers. I feel like if REYNOR was at 90 workers since a minute ago, I'd be okay with this position. Without it though, we got Force Fields, Colossus. Blink is on the way, so HARSTEM, I guess, is a little worried about... I don't know, he's making a lot of Stalkers, and you know, HARSTEM and REYNOR are both of the school of thought that massing Stalkers is what idiots do, because they're not actually good units. You know, REYNOR's always said that Protoss players are morons, because they just basically keep massing Stalkers and then complaining that it doesn't win in late game. HARSTEM's the only Protoss player I've ever heard agree with that sentiment. Yeah, he's making a lot of Stalkers right now, so... we'll see. Maybe he just feels he's got that aggressive momentum. Colossus poking in and out, seeing if they can bait it forward. REYNOR's doing a good job at defending with the Biles, but the 9 range advantage on those Colossus, allowing them to get some damage. Massling Bane on the right side. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Oh my lord. Okay, he warps in a sentry in the mineral line. REYNOR backs off. Wait, REYNOR, what are we doing? Okay. What the hell? Is he trying to force him he's trying to force him to recall? The way REYNOR was moving, you could tell he didn't want to commit. He just wanted HARSTEM to recall, and HARSTEM refused to press the button. That was an interesting dynamic. +2 melee's on the way right now for REYNOR as well. HARSTEM has got a Prism moving down the left. Now, if we look at this, there are... okay, there's Immortals being added in now. 3 Colossus into Immortals. The Archon count will continue to, or begin to grow, I should say. And HARSTEM's playing really slow. And I would normally criticize this against a lot of Zerg players, but against REYNOR, the only thing I ever criticize Protoss players for doing is moving out and shoving their army on creep. Because REYNOR, like I said, he is addicted to lair attack. Even when he makes a hive, which he's going to start too soon because his infestation pit's on the way, he often doesn't make any tech at hive except for adrenal glands, just the Zergling attack speed upgrade. REYNOR always wants to win on lair tech, and as you can see, it's all about the lair tech. YOLO! Mass Baneling trying to roll in here. He's trying to get inside that mineral line. Not enough force fields to defend here. Those probes are in trouble. I would have liked to see him stack all of his probes on the gas. He does it a little bit late. The Banelings get in there anyway, and he loses a whole mineral line. That is a nasty 16 probes going down. Youchies. On the other hand, is it worth the cost? It was a lot of Banelings that went down, and you can see REYNOR trading inefficiently there. He is ahead on income, but the army is gaining density for HARSTEM, and that's the main thing. HARSTEM's already almost maxed, and HARSTEM would actually like to trade out Stalkers and Sentries at this point for better units. He's got a Psystorm on the way, he's got High Templar beginning to gather energy now, and the Immortal count continues to grow, adding a lot of beef to this army. Still just nothing but Ravagerling Bane right now for REYNOR. There's a lot of nasty choke points on this map, man. These bridges, they create some really good areas for Protoss to fight very hard for Zerg, and I feel like with the Observers spotting him, HARSTEM's got plenty of time to reposition. Banelings coming in on the left, they might find the mark. Good force fields. The Nexus itself can just get clicked on if REYNOR wants to, but oh, big Psy Storms. Baneling's rolling that left mineral line. Another bunch of probes go down. That is another 11 workers that do fall there for HARSTEM. But this is just chipping away at the edges of HARSTEM's economy. Meanwhile, HARSTEM has a Zealot drop on the other side, and more importantly, HARSTEM's army is growing. He's up in army supply. It's already a higher quality army, and there's not really much REYNOR can do unless he's got Broodlords on the way, and he doesn't even have a Spire started. He doesn't have a Hydra Den. He doesn't have a Lurker Den. As I said, Hive finishes, but what is the Hive actually for? And that's a common scenario with REYNOR. As what is the Hive for? It's to make more Banelings, which he could have done without the Hive anyway. I mean, at this point, I think he's a bit too far behind from the early game. The Adept's got massive damage. HARSTEM just needs to be careful. Don't get surrounded, mate. Don't get surrounded. High Templar in the open. Okay, HARSTEM might be screwing this up if he leaves those High Templar hanging out. You know REYNOR's getting ready to come in from that top right side. REYNOR wants to come in. He's coming in from all angles. Look at this surround. HARSTEM's got to protect the Templar right now. Nice storms on that left side. Very nice Psy Storms. REYNOR committing. I don't know if this is the right call. The High Templar, the Colossus pull back, only a single Archon goes down, and it looks like the flank from the north that was meant to come in got intercepted by a rally of Stalkers coming across the map, and as a result, it did not come in from that north. Oof. Banelingling, Roach, Ravager trying to come forwards. HARSTEM with a good spready of units. Notice most of his Stalkers have been traded out for super high quality units at this point. He's still got one Psy Storm in the mix as well. And attacking down that ramp off creep is a crazy, crazy choice. That is not going to work out. HARSTEM playing so slowly and methodically. And this is what HARSTEM's always been best at. Slowly, slowly just chipping at his opponent until he gets towards the victory. HARSTEM, I've kind of criticized over the years for being very boring when he wins. And what I mean by that is he gets way ahead and then he just slowly builds advantages and takes no chances. And back in Heart of the Swarm, I'd always laugh at him building cannons outside his opponent's base. And I'm like, mate, that's just mean. Just go kill the guy. And he's like, I don't want to take any chances. And I'm like, you don't need cannons and Tempests outside the guy's base in early Legacy of the Void. And he's like, yeah, no, I do. I'm like, okay, HARSTEM, you savage, mate. Big flank, big flank, big flank. Great force fields on the left, but there's a hole. Any hole's a goal for those Banelings. They do manage to crack through. The Colossus and the Immortals managing to get in there. The Roaches and the Ravagers going after those Immortals. Oh, my lord. Oh, my lord. Oh, my lord. Okay, this is actually a crazy fight, but not enough units. REYNOR's already lost way too much in that game. Down 9,000 resources in the units lost, and a really good win for HARSTEM off a classic build. It was 4-gate Glaive Adept with no Robo into a 3-minute 50 third base. So he gets the third base at the same super fast timing as if it's a Stargate, but he also hits a 4-gate Glaive Adept timing. And REYNOR just sloppy on his Roach Warren timing. I want to go back and just check really quickly, because remember, I was wondering, did he fake, did HARSTEM fake the Warp Gate getting cancelled? I don't think he did. So REYNOR should have known. So if REYNOR looks at this, basically if we go on regular game speed, notice how the Cybercore is spinning? That tells you that this is upgrading, and they can't afford a fast Stargate if this is upgrading. So this is almost always, that's what you look for with the Overlord. You know, okay, it's a Twilight or a Robo, and normally you start a Roach Warren at latest 4 minutes 10, often 4 minutes if you're going to do the style REYNOR did. But if we go up there, I think REYNOR was just a bit lazy on this timing. Yeah. So I don't know if REYNOR's a little rusty, but he definitely did not expect such a fierce 4-gate Glaive Adept timing. And I think for me, I think part of it is seeing that third base. I think this third base kind of screwed with REYNOR's head. Because if you look at this from REYNOR's vision, he loses the Overlord, and then he comes over here with Zerglings, and he sees a crazy fast third, and he's immediately like, oh, I need to drone really hard. I don't need to build a Roach Warren. I just need to hold the drone key down. Drones, 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 drones. And he even builds a Spore Crawler, which tells us he thinks it might actually be a Stargate opening. So I think definitely REYNOR misread this and thought this was actually an Oracle opening. So he got a little bit tricked. He then changes his mind and cancels it, but only once he sees those Adepts warping in. And it's only after seeing the Adepts warping in that he drops the Roach Warren. So just very greedy for REYNOR. Let's go to game 2. Very nice game 1 from HARSTEM. Oh, right. HARSTEM now in the bottom right of Golden Aura, up 1 game on REYNOR. And as much as HARSTEM's been on a run, and REYNOR has been, you know, admittedly lazy with his practice lately, guys, let's be real. HARSTEM's not really meant to be beating REYNOR. And I'm sure REYNOR's going to come out with a vengeance, and he's going to be brutal, because REYNOR is known for losing early games in a series and then coming back with a vengeance. Think about the Katowice, where he barely lost to Serral. I believe it was 2022. Actually, no. Yeah, 2022. In the semis, right? He lost 2 games to Hero Marine, and then he was like, and then he just switched it on and became unstoppable. And in this interview, he's like, yeah, probably should stop losing that first game. Hey, haha, you know, and he's kind of like making little jokes like that. But it's one of those things where it is like a habit of his to like come in a little half-cocked. His opponent's got a fantastic plan. They rip him apart, and then he has to turn it on. So let's see what he does to abuse HARSTEM. In that last game, HARSTEM was very defensive after the opening pressure. He also kind of misread the opening, right? I think he saw that fast third, and he instinctively just focused harder on his drones on economy than he should have, as we pointed out at the end of that last game. He got a bit punished for it, and we'll see what HARSTEM has in mind. HARSTEM is prioritizing gas just slightly over the minerals there, and going to see him try to get a little bit more mining. Oh, look at this. HARSTEM actually understanding the details. He's actually going to get an extra mineral triple here by stacking those workers, but he messed it up. Never mind. He messed up the micro slightly. It's not a big deal, but he does get a few extra mineral trips on this one before swapping that worker onto gas. Nicely played by him. He's also blocked this base. So in this scenario, normally you want to chrono adepts across. You know, it pairs up. If you're going to send a probe across, force them to take an awkward, harder to defend third. Usually you're going to chrono 2 adepts across the map. Now, Dark usually counters this by sending Zerglings around the adepts and running into the base to make it very hard for the second adept to rally across. Because 1 adept is nowhere near as scary. 2 adepts, though, they can one-shot Zerglings, one-shot drones. Things get very scary. Link speed's on the way. More queens building as well. Second adept's getting chrono boosted also. First adept is here on its way across the map. I like that forward tumor for REYNOR. Doesn't have a third queen building out front, though. That's kind of odd. He's building the third queen in the main. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. Normally you build that at the front base. But I guess this does allow this queen to walk out into no man's land. He does have his third base started as well. Overlord goes right through for the scout. I think this was a good choice for REYNOR. Confirm what's going on. Make sure there's no surprises. And he does know that there's an oracle on the way. Now, HARSTEM's going to do the shade from 2 directions, but he takes a few hits on that. He's already wounded, but remember, there's no second queen popping out here. And that's why I was a little confused, because look, that queen's popping out right on time to help defend these adepts, but it's in the wrong base. Gets a drone, shades away. Not too bad. Very safe play for HARSTEM. The thing is, he only forced out 2 more Zerglings. REYNOR did not overreact at all. REYNOR has decided greed is the way to get back in here. He wants to have a much cleaner opening. He's got 2 queens in the main. He's about to have 2 queens in the third. He's got 6 lings, which is pretty low for defending these adepts, but it should just barely be enough. He's droning crazy hard right now. He's never going to get supply blocked at all because REYNOR and Dark may share a lot in common, but I've always said the big difference between the two is REYNOR doesn't get supply blocked and Dark does. Nice drone pull for REYNOR. HARSTEM's still going to get some damage, though. 4 drones going down there. Does lose the 2 adepts, and the Oracle gets heavily damaged. I think that's acceptable losses for REYNOR, as 7 more drones are about to pop out. Seems like a pretty close game so far. Gateway's there. Third base coming up quite early. Once again, started about 350. He's got a Twilight Council very early. Interesting. Is HARSTEM planning, once again, a quick follow-up? That's a very fast Twilight. Often players don't start it till like 4 minutes 40. They'll go Twilight and Forge. But he's doing this off just 2 gas as well. This might be a quick charge follow-up. We might see him try to go for like, third and fourth gateway. Maybe like a 4-gate charge delete pressure, just a light one. Oh, he loses an Oracle. This is a much better start for REYNOR. REYNOR is angry right now. You got to be careful about making REYNOR angry, guys. Remember, REYNOR already is one of these players who off races with Protoss and is incredibly good at it. That's a fast blink. HARSTEM chronoing blink. Okay, HARSTEM may want to cancel the 4th base. 4th base is going down very early, and that's what you always want against these styles as Zerg. So he might be like, okay, if I can get like 8 Stalkers across the map with my Oracles, that'll be good. But he's only got 1 Oracle now. He's going to start poking out with a few Stalkers. REYNOR still has the Scout in the back, ready to come back in later. 3rd and 4th gas come up. They are delayed, but not by that long. I always thought HARSTEM's way of securing the 3rd in this matchup was such a nice, solid way for average Joes to copy. I think too many people are copying the more dangerous ways that Maxpax and Hero take the 3rd base and then delay their Twilight Forge and their gateways by such a long time, especially the extra gateways. That's a pretty good timing to be up on 4 gateways pre 6 minutes. You know, if you do get queen walked or anything like that, you can be warping in Stalkers 4 at a time, and this keeps you so safe as HARSTEM. I think HARSTEM also knows when REYNOR gets angry, he likes to just kill you with a big queen roach shove a lot of the times. So HARSTEM's saying, well, this keeps me 100% safe first, and it allows me to be quite aggressive as well. Big Ling Run by attempt coming in. Oh, careful, mate. Careful. Oh, God, he's going to lose the warping in Stalker. The other Stalker is okay with the help of that shield battery. Does clear up a little bit of this creep spread. That's a lot of Zerglings. And, dude, Reynor may be down 8 workers right now, but that's because he has so many Zerglings. And if he can kill these Stalkers, that'll be massive. He catches that one back there. Great recall. Great recall. But, oh, he almost loses an Oracle. How many Stalkers have gone down? That's going to be 3 Stalkers falling when this one dies. Does keep both Oracles alive at least. He's built 1 extra Oracle after losing 1 earlier in this game. Units lost up well in favor of Reynor, and now that Reynor has 76 Zerglings on the map with +1 melee about to finish, well, not about, but in 40 seconds, he can drone, he's going to go Infestation, he's going to rush up to Hive. Reynor has massive control over this game right now, and he can take a 5th base, he can take macro hatches. Reynor can get massive advantages on the momentum, while HARSTEM is kind of forced to just defend. And he's actually going to play the Gateway Man style. Templar Archives. He's got +1 attack on the way. The Overseer's going to scout all of this as well. Oh, the Zerglings could actually take some pretty decent trades here. Battery can't heal everything at once. Even though the battery healing rate is good, that was a lot of surface area. A few probes and a Zealot or 2 do go down. Lings on the right. Not getting the best trades there for Reynor. Reynor's just being as annoying as he possibly can, though. The Oracles will be forced back to defend. Fast Hives on the way, as well as +2 melee. Reynor is looking pretty decisive in that regard. His Baneling Nest is very late, though. I guess he'll... And he's going to go Hydra Den. Is he going... Oh, he must be going Lurkers. Okay, so he's going to play a Ling Bane Hydra Lurker style. Okay, this is a really, really weird style, because it can work very well. He's just going to surround with Lings and go Lurkers. It's kind of a troll style, though. This is like an old ZvT style. I almost don't want to see him bother with the Banelings at all. I feel like the Banelings are not really worth investing in this style. You're better off just going for more high tier units. Ultras would be amazing. And Lurkers do counter Gateway Man into Storm styles. He kills the 4th base. HARSTEM doesn't get the cancel. Oh, I told you got to be worried about making Reynor angry. He gets an Archon morphing down there as well. Dude, oh, this mass Ling style. This is like the Zero Fear Reynor that's so scary. Doesn't have a Roach Warren for safety. Had no other tech until recently. He's making Baneling speed. He's going to make 2 Lurker Dens. His Lurker Dens are very late, guys. His Hive's already finished. So this is what I said about his Hive tech is never really on time with Reynor. That's something that's been the case for the last few years. He's really good with his mid-game macro, his early game, his multi-prong. But his late-game tech is very slow, and he's continuing to drone over 100 workers right now. Reynor is building a ridiculous economy. He's going to come in with a mass Zergling attack. Man, if he had any other units like Roaches or Banelings supporting here, he would just be winning the game. As it is, it still seems like a pretty decent trade for Reynor since he's so rich. He's on 107 workers. He's decided any trade is a good trade for me in this game, and he's not wrong. My lord. Okay, so he's making Hydras. Notice he's not making Hydra upgrades, so those are just to morph into Lurkers, and he's going to make both upgrades at once with the double Lurker Den. He's got a 6th base down there as well. As long as he keeps up his injects, which he's doing a really good job of injecting pretty much every hatchery except this top one that doesn't have a queen at it, that's going to be real nice. Double Lurker upgrades starting up, so they'll be done in about a minute, guys. And if he can go big Lurker timing, that could be massive. On the other hand, he doesn't have any support units for the Lurkers. It's just Lings and Lurkers. Lings are very fragile. So he's going for a glass cannon style of army, and with 106 drones, I feel like, man, he definitely could be taking a few more gases and going up to Ultras, Broodlords, anything like that as well. His gas count just isn't very high. He's making Banelings right now, but I feel like he needs a lot more Lurkers. And he definitely, desperately needs these gases up top because he's maxed out on basically mass Zergling. Stasis traps keeping him back. HARSTEM's just trying to hang on. I haven't really been talking about HARSTEM's viewpoint. Second Forge is coming up. +2's almost finished. He's going to go for armor, probably shields upgrades in the near future. HARSTEM's got Psystorm, which basically hard counters Zerglings in frontal engagements. So he's left his High Templar behind, though. This army should not be out here. HARSTEM, put it back in your pants, mate. He's trying to bait the Ling Bane up onto this choke point by the looks of it. And the thing is, I mean, Reynor's got an army that's very awkward. It's mass Zergling with a few Lurkers, a few Banelings right now. Reynor needs to find a way to trade. High Templar cannot push into those Lurkers, but at the same time, it's very hard for Reynor to push into him. He's got the Lurker upgrades now. He's trying to make more. I think Broodlords or Ultras would have been a much easier way of using this quick Hive tech. Oh, Storm's going in. The Lings just get eviscerated by the Archon Storm. Man, what a tiny army for HARSTEM, but it just killed every Zergling so quickly, and a bunch of the High Templar escape. He's going double Immortal production, which are very good against Lurkers. The longer you give the Protoss to go mass Immortal, plus Storm, plus some Archon Zealot, yes, Lurkers can deal with it if they're defending a choke point, but remember, they don't have any attack upgrades or armor upgrades, so they're going to be 0-0 Lurkers for a long time, whereas the Immortals are getting upgrades. And if the Immortals can get a good angle, they can do very well. But uh-oh, don't get surrounded by the Lings. Oh my god, okay, Archon's getting taken out here. He's going to lose 1, 2, 3 Archons. Oh, HARSTEM leaving his army, sticking out. A huge mistake for him. He loses his whole Archon army. REYNOR getting a massive trade. REYNOR's still at 101 drones. He finally drops one more Storm, does more fat Archon there. I think those Zealots could actually deal with these Lurkers since they're in such small numbers. HARSTEM thinks about going for it, but he's taking some pretty massive splash damage. Oh, but the Immortals are coming up as well. REYNOR there, unsupported Lurkers, trying to even morph them on the front lines. Way too greedy. Remember, he still doesn't have Hydra upgrades right now, guys. And the lack of a second Evo chamber for REYNOR definitely has hurt him in this game. If he was up to some slightly higher upgrades, that'd be nice. But right now, definitely rough for him. HARSTEM has somehow secured a 5th base on the right side. It's about to finish up. He's got to transfer workers there because his bases are oversaturated quite massively. His natural and his 4th. His prism still being as annoying as it possibly can. Picking off Hydras left, right, and center, and that prism hanging out in the top. Good job for HARSTEM to not panic F2 in this game. Double Immortal production's on the way for him. REYNOR has 4,000 minerals, and he's not really spending it right now. He needs to get a move on. He needs to be denying that base on the right. He needs to be attacking from multiple angles. But REYNOR, he's got so many drones, way too many workers, and he's not using them. He could definitely just take more gases and transition into Broodlords, but he's still making a mass Zergling, Baneling army with a few Lurkers to support. HARSTEM's had Storm, Archon, Zealot for a while, which counters this army. And REYNOR's refusing to transition. He's being a little bit stubborn here. REYNOR is more of a movement guy. He likes to come in from multiple angles, and on a map where your opponent's so good at walling off choke points like that, defending these other areas on the ramps, you do need to work your way upwards into the longer range tech. Lurkers, I thought were going to be a good choice, and if he was maybe a little earlier with them, had a bit more gas to make like 20 Lurkers rather than just 7 Lurkers on the first wave, that would be a very different situation where I think HARSTEM would have been overwhelmed, but HARSTEM's got to be careful, man. These are +3 melee Zerglings. Archons get destroyed by them. Oh, REYNOR's going to shove. Mass Lurker coming in, guys. 13 Lurkers this time. They've got +1 range attack now. The Immortals on the bottom getting surrounded. This is really bad for HARSTEM. He's trying to fight, but his Immortals are getting surrounded by the Zerglings. This is not good for HARSTEM. He just lost a lot of Immortals and Archons. 4 Immortals, 9 Archons have gone down this game. There is still 9 Lurkers on the front line. Keep in mind the Lurkers have 10 range, Immortals only 6 range. There's no Psy Storm available. Oh wait, there's a little bit. There is a few Storms up on that very top right side. Down the bottom, Immortal Archon there. The thing is, REYNOR's got to be careful about creating a long spread battle line, because if Immortals can come in all along this front, you're not going to be stacking any splash damage, and that can be nasty. HARSTEM goes forward, loses an Immortal. That's a mistake for HARSTEM. And the Lurkers continuing to push forwards. Here we go. Psy Storms all over those units. The Lurkers are trying to burrow on top. REYNOR taking an absolutely mad dog crazy charge into HARSTEM's position. He gets some really good Baneling hits on the Zealots. But remember, Ling Bane is just not good in a frontal fight. REYNOR is using a Ling Bane Lurker army. Lurkers are a great frontal fighting unit, but the Ling Bane is a harassment and mobility unit. But REYNOR's trying to use it to support the Lurkers as if it's a frontal fighting unit. He's making a single Corruptor right now to get rid of the Warp Prism, which makes perfect sense. But I gotta say, where's the Spire? He's already got it. Where's the Greatest Spire? You know, where's the Broodlord Infestor transition? I definitely think, you know, HARSTEM's been up against the wall, way behind on bank for so long. But REYNOR is stubbornly refusing to transition to the late game, and HARSTEM is basically saying, right now, I know I'm screwed. I'm on 5 bases. He's been on 7, 8 bases for a long time. What can I do? And there's one thing you do in this scenario. I've talked about it for years. It is the fundamental advice any player takes when they're playing versus Zerg. It goes, okay, I'm pretty much dead. Let's hope my opponent chucks a Zerg. Now, what is chucking a Zerg? Chucking a Zerg is where a player grabs their whole army, and all they need to do to chuck a Zerg, first of all, sorry, the context is you're in a position where you're so far ahead, you just need to basically not screw up to win the game. And then chucking a Zerg is where you grab your whole army and you ram it into a choke point repeatedly, basically taking bad fights repeatedly, and it's like you manage to find a loss where there should have been victory, right? You know, you manage to snatch defeat from the victory screen. It's very hard to pull off, but Zerg players somehow always do this. I've done it so many times in my career, in tournaments, in ladder games. Great surround. This is how good, whenever the Zerglings are fighting without the Storm there, look how good they are. they kill things so well. So, I mean, I love the Lings for a counterattack force, but the Greatest Spy is finally on the way. If he adds a little bit of fungal as well, the Lurkers can definitely stabilize for now. He's going to go up to 21 Lurkers. And HARSTEM, he hasn't started an air transition. So don't get me wrong, like, Broodlords, it kind of slows the game down a little bit, but I feel like Reynor's had enough momentum. He definitely could have hit a Broodlord timing up to this point. He's going to go for another big Lurker push, and this area is so choked up. The range of the Lurkers should do very well. You don't want to spread them out, though. You know, you want to keep him really clumped, and he should just be trying to inch forward a few of the Lurkers. Yeah, nice move by Reynor. So he's trying to bait HARSTEM into a bad fight, and you can see HARSTEM's taking big Lurker damage on the bottom and the top. This is really cool, but he's got to stay back. Don't move too many of these forward. Oh, Zealot Arc on flank from the top. Zealot Arc on flank from the top. Beautiful angle. Those two Immortals in the top coming in from there as well. Oh, man, the Immortal Archon on the bottom as well. That was a beautiful surround there by HARSTEM. What an engagement. That was a surround. Wow, 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 wow. And Reynor had thrown all of his Lingbane into the base ahead of his Lurkers, so he'd kind of bled out a few of his units. That was a lovely engagement. We always say that Lurkers, if you flank them, they are not as strong. Nice revelation. Zealots clean this up. He did lose 16 probes during all this, bringing the total up to 23 worker kills. But that's still a good 74 worker economy for HARSTEM. Uh-oh. Oh, barely warps in to block the Zerglings in time. There's cannons and batteries there. And it looks like he will come back and clean up most of these Lings. Those Lings in the top could come in and maybe deny that base, but there are Oracles there as well. They turn on their lasers pretty much immediately. He's going to find a fair few probes, but HARSTEM's on point with his defense right now. They don't call him hard stem for no reason. Right now, he is showing some very hard D, and Reynor, he's still massing Lingbane. He's trying to make more Lurkers. Guys, remember, he made a Great Aspire, but he's not making Infestors or Broodlords. It's Reynor in a nutshell. He does not like using Hive Tech. He wants to run around that low-tier army, but man, this Archon's killing so many Banelings. I think they might still clear this mineral line. Does warp in a Stalker there as well. Oh, wow, nicely done. Really, really well done there by HARSTEM to defend. He's got an Archon up there. The single Corruptor will take care of the Prism. The Ling's taking care of that, but it looks like it's push time. And there's still just Hydras. It's just Ling Lurker. Lings are not good in a frontal fight, so unless he has like 15 Lurkers, he's only got 11. He might be able to get punched through. Hard to attack on creep, though. HARSTEM does back off. He's going to rotate his army down to the left. Massling finds the 5th base. HARSTEM back to his original 4 bases. Uh-oh, HARSTEM's economy is taking a beating. He can't let this game go much longer. He can't let Reynor get to Broodlords. Reynor is not building those Broodlords, though. He's just making Hydras into Lurkers. He still doesn't have any Hydra upgrades. He's got 2-1 for the Lurkers, and he's making 3-2. So at least those Lurkers are getting more upgraded. Reynor's trying to take a base next to HARSTEM's base. He's got the gold. He's been mining so many more resources. Units lost tab is actually reasonably close to even, but that's because HARSTEM's been mining so much. And oh man, he punches through those Lurkers, expanded into way bit too big of a concave, and they didn't have any support. The Immortals and the Archons shoving through a few Fungals, supporting those Lurkers would have been game-changing to kind of stop that army's advance. Would have been so impressive. But without it, the Lurker line gets punched through. Still Mass Zergling on the way here for Reynor. Reynor is so reliant on the Mass Zergling. We've also got to point out the upgrades. 3-3-2 for HARSTEM. Something I should have pointed out a long time ago. I'm like, how are these units trading so well? Oh, I see how. They have insanely good upgrades. The Archons especially denying the +3 upgrades of those Zerglings. And this is a lovely defensive turtle comeback for HARSTEM in Game 2. Reynor had his chances. He had a massive 107 worker economy. He had a chance to go Hive Tech much earlier than he did. But HARSTEM was able to just turtle this out and just hang on. He locked up the doors. He battened down the hatches. And he weathered out this hurricane. And Reynor played like a hurricane. Fast, crazy, aggressive, mass Zergling styles. But I don't see him ever getting rid of this army. He's morphing Corruptors and Broodlords now, but he's only doing it too late in the game. And much reminiscent of, I remember Rotterdam kind of saying, you know, Reynor says Infestors are really bad against Terran, but he only ever seems to build them when he's already lost the game. And then he says, see, I built Infestors and lost, but, you know, he only builds them when he's already behind. So I think in this scenario, Reynor was playing a very creative style. The Massling was really important. But I would have liked to see him never focus on the frontal fights. He had 107 workers. Just don't fight front on. Just run Lurker harassment in, run a few Lurkers in here and bust the cannon, run Lings in from the top, from the bottom, come in from every side. And I think if he kept playing it like a backstab style, which is what it at its core was, and then maybe just defend with Lurkers and a choke point if HARSTEM comes to shove you, that would have been the way to do this. And just keep trying to trade down in many small fights, because that's where his style excels. But whenever he went for the frontal fights, HARSTEM showed that he's actually just a little bit better than Reynor at setting up nice, calm surrounds You could say he's better. You could say he had the better setup because obviously Archon Immortal Storm does a little bit better than Massling Bane in a frontal fight. Broodlords are coming out. There's no Infestor support. There's no money backing this up. Harstem's still got money coming in, and he's in a really, excuse me, really decent position. He's also building the hard counter to Reynor's army, a single Chad rate, guys. He's got Stalkers with great upgrades. There is +3 melee on those Broodlings, but remember, Broodlings have also been nerfed. They move much slower, and they attack much slower than they used to. They also don't last anywhere near as long as they used to. That was from the previous patch, not the most recent one, but the one before that. So Broodlings, even though the Broodlords are a little faster themselves, the Broodlings aren't as high damage as they used to be. They're still very oppressive because of their long range, and especially with Lurkers being so great, but that single Void Ray, look at this. Harstem says, you don't have anything that shoots up. Nah, 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 nah. And he's actually going to take out all of these Broodlords. The Archon Immortal Storm finally coming in. Those storms are delicious. And notice how whenever Harstem engages the Lurkers, he's quite spread out. If you're balled up, that Lurker splash is crazy. But much like playing against siege tanks, Harstem, a master of defense. I have to watch that hold over on that base earlier in this game, guys, because that was such a beautiful engage when all those Lurkers were sieged up over here. I don't know exactly when this happened in this game, but there was some point where there was that mass of Lurkers, and he came in with the flank from the north as well. And I need to watch him set that up again, because I'd removed the mini map and stuff to try and get a little bit more vision on the screen, and I didn't even see his little flank around the top. So yeah, this is kind of the lead into it. And notice he sets up this flank up the top. So he comes in. It would be even better if he warped in a few Zealots across this gap and came from that ramp as well. Because the way it works is if all the Lurkers are shooting off in this direction or this direction, your units on the other side get right on top of them. And Immortals do absolutely slay. So let's slow this fight down. The Immortal Archon in the bottom is also, even that, spread out a little bit. So the Archons are getting popped, the other units aren't. These guys crushing through those Lurkers. The Zealots charging on top, kind of luring some of the attacks away. Really well done surround. And if you look at it, you can say, wow, man, Protoss so imba, even with a ground army, they can deal with it. But you can also look at this and say, well, those are unsupported Lurkers, right? It is just 19 Lurkers. I think a Lurker's a 3 supply unit. I don't know if it's 2 or 1 supply to morph a Hydra into a Lurker. A Hydra is 2 supply. I think it's 1 more to make it into a Lurker. Say that's 3 times 19, about 60 supply of Lurkers. And I'm pretty sure this is a lot more than 60 supply of Protoss army. This is basically every army unit he has on the entire map for Harstem. Whereas a lot of the army, of course, for Reynor is in Queens. It's in his higher drone count. It's in Zerglings that all die before the fight really starts. And it's in units that he's reproducing at home. So this is a much bigger army for Harstem. And this is why, like I said, I kind of would rather he was doing more of these run-bys rather than frontal pushes with the Lurkers. If he was going to do a frontal push, I think he should have had some sort of supporting unit. I don't know what that supporting unit should have been exactly. Like I said, Infestors or Broodlords is probably an easier army the longer the game goes, but Harstem just had so many of these lovely engagements, and I was so impressive. GG, well played to Harstem, getting a well hard-earned 2-0 over Reynor. And, you know, this is especially funny because people have been saying that Harstem has, you know, basically been trying to campaign for Zerg to be overpowered for the longest time as being like a fun conspiracy theory. And, I'm sure the people that thought that are weeping right now. Anyways, well played to Harstem. Good to see he's on top of his game. And it's going to be interesting to see how Reynor adjusts and how he adapts his style. Because I do think he was a little bit late on his hive tech multiple times in this game. Anyway, thanks for watching. That's all for now. Catch you next time. Goodbye and good night.